Before I came to Kalamazoo, I sat down with that fellow. I said to him, he said, look, John, you've been 5 years, you've done an incredible job, you've renovated the facility, raised money, and right now I can tell you the board just wants to take a break. So maybe you want to take a break. But I have to sit there. So that's when I started to look.
They're both like normal guys. He's a teacher.
Bill Martin was one of the people. And then the second time I came, I think Birmingham was here about a day and a half minute. Then I come for a second interview. She was looking at the city. We're at the Upshot Company headquarters. We have lunch. There's like 5, 6 people at the table. We're just talking about
So I saw it. It's like the third game was on the table.
it was like somebody because Bill Martin, Jim, we think you're the best person. Really good. They can call it. All we want is to start free making them dead. No, I'm not saying I'm doing it.
But you have to make it.
But we came. It was a good decision. Well, it was interesting. I was able to say to him when you brought me Saturday night.
Good to see you. How are you? How are you doing? Good to see you.
All the brave people. All the brave people.
You want to take a selfie with us? Is she looking for Andrew? Yeah, she's right on the end.
Are you looking for Andrew? Oh, there you are.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Kalamazoo City Commission to order for Monday, October 15th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Cooney.
Present.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Here.
Commissioner Sykes.
Here.
Commissioner Urban.
Here.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Here.
Mayor Hopewell.
Present. For our opening ceremony this evening, we will have an invocation by Dr. Addis Moore of Mount Zion Baptist Church. I ask that you stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening. Let us pray. Father God, we recognize your presence tonight as we enter this meeting of this commission. We thank you now for giving us the strength and giving us the ability to be here tonight. We start by invoking your presence. We know that many voices will be heard here tonight, but you've told us in your word that your ways are not our ways, and your thoughts are not our thoughts. You told us that there is a way that seemeth right unto man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So tonight, Lord, above all the voices that I've heard, we want to hear your voice. You've told us to pray for all of our leaders, all those that are in authority. So we lift up now our mayor and our city manager and every commissioner. We give them to you, their minds and their wisdom to you as they do business on the behalf of our city, Kalamazoo. Lord, we know you want to do what's best for all people. And so we ask now that you would just invoke your presence and you would be in control. And when we leave here tonight, we will know that what has occurred here is pleasing in your sight. We give this meeting to you. We surrender now to your leading. Guide and direct us now. It is in the precious name of Jesus we do ask all things. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioners, you have the agenda before you this evening. Are there any changes? Mr. Manager?
Yeah, we're going to be pulling item 5 off the agenda. This is a 2018 Justice Assistant Grant, and we're looking at some wording in there that may contradict what the City Commission has, by policy, created around working with ICE and resources towards ICE and support of ICE and some other issues. So we'll be pulling that tonight.
Thank you. Any others, Commissioner? Anyone in the audience having an item they'd like to discuss that is on the consent agenda, that item will need to be moved to the regular agenda. If you have an item, please indicate at this time. Hearing no one, Communications Manager Ritzman.
None, Your Honor.
The consent agenda, please.
The following items are presented for approval. First is the approval of a contract with Hurley and Stewart for the preliminary design for the extension of Harrison Street in the amount of $171,500. Next is the adoption of a resolution authorizing Public Services Director James J. Baker, P.E., to execute for and on behalf of the City of Kalamazoo an application for financial assistance regarding the Parchment PFAS emergency. Next is the adoption of a resolution to schedule a public hearing to consider an application to amend Industrial Development District number 95 for Schupan & Sons, LLC. Next is the adoption of a resolution to schedule a public hearing to consider an application to establish an industrial development district for Schupan & Sons, LLC. Next is the approval of the following appointments to boards and commissions. First, the approval of Joe Bauer to the Environmental Concerns Committee for a term expiring on January 1, 2021, and the appointment of Brandy Crawford to the Environmental Concerns Committee for a term expiring on January 1, 2021. And finally, the approval of the minutes from the City Commission meetings on September 4, September 10, and September 17, 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve the consent agenda and authorize the city manager to sign all documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Cunningham.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Urban. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cooney. Yes. Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. The regular agenda, please, Mr. Manager.
First, we have the adoption of a resolution to create the Kalamazoo Downtown Economic Growth Authority, referred to as the DEGA, appoint members to the DEGA board, and approve bylaws. And, Your Honor, I'd like to call forward our new Kalamazoo Downtown Partnership President Andrew Hahn and Vice President Jennifer Jelnick, and our Community Planning Economic Development Director Rebecca Kick for a presentation.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for your time, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Manager Ritzema, and I want to thank also everyone that showed up tonight to show their support for the work that we've labored so hard in partnership with the city on. So I'm going to start off tonight and kind of do the first few slides here, and Rebecca is going to talk a little bit about how this integrates with Imagine Kalamazoo and other already approved community plans and visions, and then Jennifer is going to walk us a little bit through some of the mechanics and some of the other works that we're doing on community engagement and restructuring within formerly DKI, now the Kalamazoo Downtown Partnership. So I'll direct everyone's eyes up to the screen or your screens that you have there. So as a brief refresher, we're not going deep into the history of what happened with the Downtown Development Authority. We had a chance to do that at our last public hearing in August, and I think you all had a fairly good understanding, or a very good understanding, of some of those things that led to its current financial state, including the economic crisis of 2008, the challenges with the Headley Amendment that were similar to what the city was faced with, and then also challenges around the demolition of major industrial properties in our downtown. So what does this thing do that we proposed? It resets and replaces the Downtown Development Authority TIF district. What we do with those funds is we capture the growth within the district to reinvest into the district, to make improvements, to keep our infrastructure in great shape, to offer programming and activate public spaces, among other things. We have a great legacy, a 29-year legacy of this being an effective, impactful tool for our community, and look forward to using this, certainly with your blessing, to continue that important work. So this implements some key boundary modifications to what was the boundary of the Downtown Development Authority. We were very intentional in making sure that we stuck to downtown when we did that work. There's really good work going on in the neighborhoods, and there are plans being developed or already underway in the neighborhoods. So we were very intentional in keeping to downtown and staying focused. We have enough work to do here. And then the other thing is that it opens up the ability to leverage some state matching dollars that the DDA was not able to get. So as a reminder, this is a two-phase proposal. If you look at this, kind of the pyramid of needs, or the hierarchy of needs for our downtown, we firmly believe that having our infrastructure and our public spaces in good shape, well-maintained, and fill in our gaps too, things like our sidewalk gaps. So infrastructure becomes the most important and most pressing thing for the proposed Downtown Economic Growth Authority. We're looking at a potential phase 2, which would come in 2019 and beyond, which would actually be what is called a business improvement district. And that is something that is used many cities across Michigan, downtown Grand Rapids, Detroit, Muskegon, several others, and is widely used across the country. That's something that we can advise on and share information with our downtown property owners and businesses. We can't compel them to form that, nor can the city. That is property owners self-assessing themselves for services. A lot of times that's things like snow removal, maintenance, sanitation, other things along those lines that kind of are the cherry on top, the things that really make a downtown pop. So this, I realize, is very difficult to see the boundary or read the names, but what I'll try and do again is just kind of walk through in a clockwise manner what those changes are. So on the inside, you'll see the current DDA TIF district. That bigger green boundary is the proposed Downtown Economic Growth Authority district. So starting up at that top right, that little bulb out that you see is just across the Kalamazoo River. That is the Merchants Crossing area, which is a group of contaminated parcels that are owned by the land bank and the city. And we really think that this tool would help spur development there that's not been able to happen. And I want to be clear, there's really two reasons that you would want to expand. One is to be able to to capture growth, to keep growing more. And then the other is to be able to take that growth that's happening in the core and take it out to some other key areas to invest to stimulate growth. Working clockwise around that shape, the area between that large gap between the blue and the green there is behind the Foundry property, and you just heard about the contract to extend Harrison Street. I'm assuming that's actually right through that area. There's a couple small blocks around the bottom that we're anticipating some development potentially happening. And then I think the really interesting opportunity is over on the left and the bottom left, and that actually is the Stadium Drive corridor. So that is all basically roadbed, but what that allows us to do is take some of these funds that are grown downtown and invest them into that area between the campuses and the downtown and the neighborhoods to the west, so that we can bridge that divide, make it safer, make it easier for these students and neighbors and everyone else to come downtown. When right now, you know, we have you've all heard me say this before, but a creek, a high-speed rail line, a 6-foot-high fence, and a state highway separating our downtown from our campuses and neighborhoods to the west. So this will allow for some investments in that right-of-way. I am going to hand this off to Director Kick to talk a little bit about how this aligns with Imagine Kalamazoo.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. So, you know, I like to give the updates about where we've been. So the background was we held a 2-day meeting that was specifically to create the chapter for downtown life. In the past, in 2009, the comprehensive plan that was done for downtown was a completely separate document from the 2010 master plan. So if you were to go back and look at that plan, there was a gray shaded area and it kind of said, you know, see other document. And we thought, well, that's kind of difficult for developers who want to see the vision for our entire community. The downtown plan should really be a part of the whole master plan. So we specifically held 2 long days in downtown, one to engage just downtown like it was a neighborhood, and then secondly to really engage the whole city because downtown is truly everyone's neighborhood. And so throughout those days we highlighted priorities, and we also kicked off the retail analysis that was part of that. And we also had the urban growth initiative study that was going on at that time. And so all of these kind of culminated into that downtown plan. We used the 2009 comprehensive plan to validate those goals, just like we have with our other neighborhood plans, and then to create new goals for the downtown. So I'm not going to read these to you. Instead, I'm going to show you some cool slides. So the urban growth initiative, as part of this, was where we did kind of a deep reach into the anchors that are here, Bronson Hospital, KVCC, Western Michigan University, really getting to them and talking to them both as employers and employers of people who live in the city and how they're attracting talent to the city. And so that was a big part of what we wanted to understand, what we could bring to the downtown, how we could bridge the gaps between the downtown, as well as they were thinking about major employers and employing residents of the city. Another part of that policy that we will be working with Andrew as part of the city to bring to one of their first DEGA meetings, the Downtown Economic Growth Authority meetings, is a policy. It's an incentives policy and a community benefits agreement that goes along with what's being proposed for this Corridor Improvement Authority. How will we be giving these incentives? How will these incentives be spent and utilized for the community? And so that's something that we've been working really hard on for the last month with our consultant, and so we'll be excited to bring that to one of the very first board meetings. So when we think about what the TIF plan, the plan that really is going to surround us downtown, and what we heard through Imagine Kalamazoo was a lot about safe and inviting streetscape. This is what connects those neighborhoods to the downtown, the north side, the east side, Edison, West Main Hill, you know, Vine up from the south. Many of those corridors that currently exist there, whether it's the railroad or, you know, the many lanes that exist on Kalamazoo Avenue or on Stadium Stadium Drive really do not make our residents feel safe in walking and biking into the downtown. And so that's why we really want to be able to focus on what does a safe and inviting streetscape look like as we imagined it through Imagine Kalamazoo. That creates better walkability to transit, to bike share, to employment. These are all things that we heard from those major employers as well, was my employees are asking for more walkability. If they want to live downtown, they want to be able to walk to work downtown. And so what will that bring to the vision as well? A big part of the retail analysis was about wayfinding, how people find it really difficult to get around, whether it's the circulating around one-way streets or it's just finding those wayfinding signs. Where is the university? Where's the shopping district? If you're not from here and you're trying to bring your parents around, or this is the first time you've been to downtown in a while, the wayfinding system is a really big deal. Additionally, we talked about parking. Right now, we do have a parking study that's underway, and so we're counting up all of the spaces. We're also looking into the types of technology that other cities are using, whether it's kind of those screens that you kind of count down, tell you how many spaces you have left. You can also look it up on an app on your phone and be able to see how many spaces are on street or how much they cost. And so we're just looking at parking in just a completely different way. What makes a local retailer successful in the downtown? And more everyday public spaces. I know, I'm hoping some of you have been down to Bates Alley and been able to enjoy what has been going on there. Tons of residents came in and helped to paint this area and have been doing selfies and lots of posts about this. This is what's making Kalamazoo vibrant. We're supporting local artists. We're trying to get more of this done. And so we're looking into, there's a couple different arts organizations that we're going to be partnering with in the next year. And we're going to start really bumping up the public art, getting more resident artists in, and making sure that we're really celebrating the resources and people that we have. One of the number one things was, make downtown a Four Seasons venue. Make sure we're paying attention to every single space. We are in Michigan. Everybody knows we get snow. I know, shocking. But, let's make sure that we're really making it fun for families to come downtown and enjoy our city all seasons of the year. And so that brings us to Snowmelt. I would say that was a perfect segue. So we are working with Public Services on a master plan for Snowmelt. Now, I know this seems, if you've read a lot of things that happen in Holland, a lot of people do talk about Snowmelt being like a major draw for them, especially in the winter months. And when I was listening to folks on the mall during Imagine Kalamazoo, especially folks who aren't so steady on their feet anymore, they said, Snowmelt was one of the things that really brought them into the downtown, especially during art hops. I was meeting folks from Lansing and Grand Rapids and other places in Battle Creek who came downtown because they know that there's not a lot of ice, and so they can still enjoy something fun. And I'm going to pass it on to Jennifer to give you the next step.
So building on some of the things that Rebecca was talking about, the other thing that's been discussed, and a lot of the idea behind this is that the DAGA would focus on infrastructure investments specifically, but there are also pieces of this that relate to public space and keeping of public space. And one of those items identified by these plans was also a downtown ambassador program. And so this is something that's been talked about a lot as a possible program that this funding could take on. Downtown ambassador programs are also in cities throughout the state, throughout the country. They help keep downtown clean and inviting. They're trained in some emergency response services, CPR. They also can connect folks with, or train in social services to connect folks with the needs that they have. And so they provide a number of services downtown that would be a great addition to downtown Kalamazoo. And then going back to a little bit of what Rebecca had mentioned, we've been working with a consultant to actually identify or build a toolkit of incentives that we could create to help shape the type of development that we want downtown. And so this is one of probably the more exciting pieces of all of this, is how do we create a downtown with mixed-use development, a more diversified residential mix, how do we incentivize affordable housing, workforce housing, and how do we engage developers in workforce development programs? So we hope to actually tackle some of those items in the initial meetings of this board. So going back, all three of these plans that Rebecca mentioned, Urban Growth Initiative, Imagine Kalamazoo, and the 2009 Comprehensive Plan, have provided the framework for creating a broad set of development priorities. And so we've worked with stakeholders in the public and private sectors over the last few months to put together this plan, and we'll actually have that come forward to you as a commission. That's our next step, with more detail about the areas of investment that have been identified. So talking about next steps a little bit, and a little bit about the timeline of this, this has really been sort of a year-long planning process. And so this started in the spring. We got going on the development plan in June, and then July 2nd, this commission voted on a resolution of intent to create the authority. There was a public hearing held in August. Between that July and August, we held a number of public meetings, did a series of meetings with folks in the community, really tried to get the word out about this. We held 3 public meetings, more than 30 planning meetings, 25 meetings with businesses, and now we've actually had more than 35 businesses and local organizations come out to either speak in support of this, provided written support, or are here tonight to talk in support of this. So we're really excited about that. Tonight, the commission will vote on this, and then going forward, like I mentioned, we will put together a full-length development plan that will come before the commission after the board reviews and approves it. This is a list of businesses and organizations in the community, like I said before, that are either here tonight, have spoken previously at the public hearing, or have signed letters of support to support the creation of this Downtown Economic Growth Authority. So combined with that, I think we also wanted to mention this and talk about this because it's important to where we're going as an organization. So as you know, Downtown Kalamazoo Incorporated was created in the 1980s to be the coordinating body for development downtown. And so as part of that, that relationship, the former DDA or the current DDA contracted with the former DKI to provide and administer those services. And so as we look forward, we really wanted to select a name that really identifies our commitment, our renewed commitment to community engagement. And so we brought in a rebranding consultant, and they recommended that this is the name we choose going forward. And so we're excited about that. We're excited about the logos that comes with and the new colors. And it's an exciting time, but more than that, we're excited about the structural changes in place with that. And so we did an exercise over the summer with the board to identify our core values as an organization and what are the things that we want to actually inform the work we do. The board came up with these 6 core values: inclusion, engagement, transparency, collaboration, transformation, and innovation. So related to those values, we talked about what are ways that we could really engage the community in this. How are we collaborative? How are we transparent? And so that sort of brought us to this conversation about citizen coalitions. And we identified 4 areas of impact that we'd like to have as an organization: people, place, experience, and growth. So rather than tying our committee work to activities, we really wanted to set goals and areas of impact. So each of those coalitions will be focused on a sort of a different scope of work. The People Coalition will strengthen links with local organizations and engage diverse downtown populations. The Place Coalition will be focused on the built environment, so infrastructure, streetscape, wayfinding. The Experience Coalition will work to create an engaging downtown. So whereas the place is the built environment, the experience is how do we engage people in that process through public art, marketing, branding, and events. And then growth is this idea of shared prosperity. How do we drive entrepreneurship? How do we drive investment that benefits multiple stakeholder groups? So I'm going to make a little bit of a plug here since we are at a public meeting. We want your help on the commission. We want members of the public to know that we're opening applications for these citizen coalitions. We want folks to apply. The applications are open till November 16th. It's our organizational goal that we want these to be representative of the community demographics. To be eligible, you only need to be able to demonstrate and articulate what your vested interest in downtown is. We wanted that to be a very inclusive call for people to apply. Each coalition will have between 10 and 20 members, and you'll serve for 2 years. So again, this is on our website. It's the first thing on the landing page, downtownkalamazoo.org, and we really want to help folks to help us get the word out about these coalitions. And that will bring me to the end of the presentation, so I think we'll now open the floor to questions if there are any.
No. This is an opportunity for you folks to ask questions. We'll have citizens' comments when we, after they're finished. And you will have an opportunity to raise your comments during citizens' open comment period on this item, as we always do. Commissioners, do you have questions? Commissioner Anders?
Yeah, thanks very much for your comprehensive presentation. Could you speak just a little bit back to this idea of capturing growth and what that means for other institutions that do collect property taxes that are, some county-wide school district, that sort of thing? Just how does that roll into this whole picture of a TIF district?
Sure. So consistent, consistent with what the DDA has done for the last 29 years, that's how this is funded, is through capture of growth. That is from the city, county, and other units. We've calculated what this actually looks like. It's really important to remember that as you're looking at many of these units or taxing units, Kalamazoo Valley Community College, et cetera, they tax on a county-wide basis. So this really represents less than 1% in almost every instance of the amount that they're collecting. So it's small. It's impactful here. On the scale of the county, we think it's a bit smaller. We have had very robust discussions with each and every one of those taxing authorities since this spring. Brought them in. We're very intentional in bringing them into our planning discussions. That those 6 priorities that Jennifer showed you, those were all informed by those taxing units that came to us, met with us. We are still kind of working through the final details on this. I will tell you that it is our intent to not, we don't see this having any impact on K through 12 education. And again, it would be very consistent with what we've done with what we think is a very nominal impact on a county-wide scale.
Just to follow up to that, Andrew, could you describe what the difference is between the DDA and what may be available under this new CIA, the corridor improvement plan related to some state resources, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So brownfield projects are actually able to capture growth in a couple of school taxes, and those get reimbursed by the state. So those local units are held completely harmless, and that works on a parcel by parcel basis. We're actually, under the Act, able to do that on a district-wide basis. So again, same impact as a brownfield project, but on the district-wide, so more resources and actually no different impact on any, on the state education tax or on the local, on KPS.
So I understand that this opportunity has been available since 2005, isn't that correct? Is there anyone else that has done this in the state yet? Take advantage of this opportunity?
There's not, and actually we feel pretty proud that we were able to kind of uncover this and bring this forward as an opportunity to be the first community that pilots this here in the state. So we've been given some kudos from some of our partners at the state on the creativity and the way that we have positioned this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Thank you, folks. It's now opportunity for any citizen. Mr. Manager, you have anything else? No. Any citizen wanting to comment on this item, please step forward. You have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Seeing. Nice. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Greg Ayers. I'm the President and CEO of Discover Kalamazoo. We office at 141 East Michigan in downtown Kalamazoo. A new organizational model and funding mechanism for supporting the essential work of growing and maintaining a healthy downtown Kalamazoo is needed. Discover Kalamazoo is pleased to support the creation of the proposed Downtown Economic Growth Authority for the City of Kalamazoo. The Discover Kalamazoo Board of Directors voted to support this proposal at our monthly meeting held on September 26th of 2018. Our vision is to share Kalamazoo with everyone. Central to this premise is to have a strong urban core which can be enjoyed by all who live, work, and visit downtown Kalamazoo. We believe the creation of this authority and implementation of a new tax increment financing funding structure is critical to the further development of downtown and the overall economic success of the city. We urge the Kalamazoo City Commission to approve the creation of the new Downtown Economic Growth Authority, and thank you for your consideration of our request.
Thank you. Next, please. Would you also sign in before? You can sign in after, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Andy Widener, the owner of the Spirit of Kalamazoo. We've been in business for 7 years, and we've enjoyed watching the positive momentum in Kalamazoo over that period of time. As all of you know, this kind of activity and growth does not happen by accident. It takes thoughtful planning and strong leadership. DKI has played an important role in that process and will continue to play a role going forward. I've been a partner with DKI since the beginning, and it's been evident over that entire time period that their funding and budgets have been an ongoing challenge. The decision to establish DEGA will provide the consistent funding model the organization needs and deserves. As a business owner and also a patron of downtown, I strongly urge your approval. This is a necessary and timely investment into Kalamazoo. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, City Commission, I'm Mike Collins. I'm the Executive Vice President at Kalamazoo Valley Community College. As most of you know, we've had a presence in downtown Kalamazoo since 1983 when we opened our Business Development Center on the first floor of the Rose Street parking ramp. Since then, we've opened the Arcadia Commons campus, Anna Whitten Hall, the Kalamazoo Valley Museum, Center for New Media, and most recently, the Bronson Healthy Living Campus, our Culinary and Allied Health Building, and our Food Innovation Center. We support the Downtown Economic Growth Authority as a key opportunity to help us with our attraction and retention of students, mobility improvements, streetscape improvements, public space development and maintenance will certainly help us protect the college's investment, and we would urge you to approve the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Brian Patelko. I'm a resident of the city, and I want to say I did have a hand in creating the Urban Growth Initiative report. But right now I'm just here as a resident and a frequenter of downtown and a parent of kids who like to come downtown. My daughter takes piano lessons at Crescendo. My both my son and my daughter love to come downtown in the summertime, in the wintertime for Christmas events. It's a really important place, even not just for the nightlife and for things and as I work downtown, but it's a place I want to be proud of to bring my kids all year round. I think the plan is great, and I really appreciated them talking about downtown being a place for all seasons, at all times, for families, for kids, and to be able to walk around safely in the area. I think that's another very important part. I like my kids to be able to cross the street safely, and I think this is a great plan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Hello.
Good evening.
My name is Cecilia Root. I am the store manager of Teal Jewelers downtown on the mall, and I am co-president of the DKRRA. The Downtown Kalamazoo Retail and Restaurant Association is a private nonprofit organization that exists to unify the voice and the promotion of restaurant, retail, and service and entertainment businesses of downtown Kalamazoo. We are a group of local business owners and managers committed to supporting and encouraging an active and vibrant downtown. I'm here to speak in support of creating the Downtown Economic Growth Authority. The landscape of downtown has changed since the TIF district was established in the 1980s. And in order to continue in order to continue to invest in downtown, we need to adapt to those changes. DKRRA sees the benefit of connecting downtown to more of Kalamazoo's anchor institutions, and this proposal will help do just that, especially with the academic community. The possibility of the state matching dollars is a huge benefit and will enable the city and downtown to implement recommendations identified through the Imagine Kalamazoo master plan. As businesses, we want to see more foot traffic downtown, more investment in parking, more investment in beautification and walkability. We believe creating this authority is key in making these things happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Staton. I'm a downtown resident and a 11-year employee of Food Dance Restaurant, which is a 24-plus year restaurant in downtown Kalamazoo. I remember the first time I stood behind that bar and looked out the window and watched bicycles and people walking by. It was a strange sight, and I was surprised at how unusual it was to see people comfortable moving around our streets. Since then, it's become a much more regular sight, and I think that the efforts of Mr. Hahn and his team are going to continue to put that in the right direction. Food Dance supports this initiative completely, and we hope that you do as well.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Dean Hauk, owner of the Michigan News Agency in downtown Kalamazoo. It is wonderful to be talking to you again. Of course, you know I am talking tonight in support of the Downtown Economic Growth Development Authority. We are making real progress with all of this. I am proud of all of us. You know and I know that the strategic investment in downtown that will be given to us through this organization is exactly what we need here in Kalamazoo. I am very much appreciative of the broadening of the outline of the project because Western Michigan University, Kalamazoo College, KVCC students are an important part not only of our community, but also of the Michigan News. They support us and we love it. Also, the fact that we are going to be able to get state dollars, that no new taxes will be added for this is an important issue, but you're aware of that because I came and talked to you about all of that in August. We are making progress partly because we have a great team working with us and for us, and the people that I've already talked with you this evening. We are also building a population and a growth of people who are living in downtown Kalamazoo. What I call the building across the street and down one block from the Michigan News is hope. There will be almost 400 people living one block from my store who will be across the street and in there buying newspapers and magazines every morning at 7 a.m. It gets me up and out of bed, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. The other thing that is marvelous is the Michigan News has now brought in their calendars for 2019. And I have older customers come up to me and say, this is my affirmation that I am going to be living for another year. I am buying a 2019 calendar. it's wonderful to look into their faces because many of these people are people that are already living downtown and believe in us. I also have come to thank you for doing your job as city commissioners. It gets me to do my job. It encourages me to get up each morning. The Michigan News has been bringing the world to Kalamazoo for 71 years. Even now at this time, when the news out there is challenging, vicious, and mind-freezing horrible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I stand before you guys as a homeless individual who has spent a considerable amount of time in the downtown area. I do not support this in the area of what happens to those who have been considered a blight or an eyesore to the residents and the business owners here in downtown when this thing does go through. That is a #1 priority to me and should be a #1 priority to you guys, is what happens to those who are down and out in our society who spend majority of their time downtown because of the fact that the mission is downtown, the Michigan community is near downtown. What happens to those individuals when some of these things do go into effect and we are considered a blight on society? That's all I have to say to you guys tonight.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Jeannette Evans. I normally don't get up at these meetings. I'm here to try to listen and try to learn. And after listening to all of the things that are going on downtown, not that I'm concerned, because I know that minorities are welcome downtown, but as I hear, it's like a whole lot of money. Not saying that we can't come downtown, but I'm saying, I think there's a new project coming downtown for apartments, and I signed my name for that to be able to move into that affordable housing. I think that's how that's going to be, that we're going to be able to move into downtown too. So I want to make sure I get that straight though, because I don't want to be coming down there and take my whole check. No, I'm just kidding. But and I wanted to get up and say something about this downtown stuff, because we do spend a lot of time downtown, the Union, the State Theater, different places that are down there. And I want to know that, could you make it look like it's for everybody? Because, I mean, you know we can come and stuff, but I think it needs to be something proposed that minorities can have a part of this, because it just doesn't look, it sounds great to those who have been speaking, who sounds like money. And I worked for 32 years for General Motors, so I mean I have money and I'm a resident here all my life. And I have to say I'm proud of Frank Street and Burdick Street, because I have a little area down there that has a new shed and a new fence. And I always talk about it wherever I go, because I asked for this. It didn't take a lot, but those people are proud of that little spot. They are really proud of that. So maybe we can work together and build in and bring in more minority people into this. I hope to be working with the planning of the downtowner with Mr. At least my name on the list, so he better call me, because if he don't, he know I'm going to be knocking on his door, because I come to his door a lot, saying, don't forget I'm on that list to have musical things that happen downtown in Kalamazoo at the Arcadia Creek, like nice jazz, because we love it. We had to go out of town to go to jazz concerts. Bring it here. I bet we'll set it up for you. Phil Denning, Alexander Johnchik, come on, we'll do it for you. I just had to get up and speak this time, but this looks like the money coming down here, and I want to be part of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Carl Wiseman, currently a homeless resident here in Kalamazoo. My question is also, with this economic growth and development, how is it going to help the many individuals that have been displaced around Kalamazoo due to private developers and various things being pushed out of their home and properties being sold to private developers for pennies on the dollar? How does that help those individuals in the community? I heard somebody say at the very beginning, the downtown area of Kalamazoo is for everybody. But we noticed that not that long ago, with new rules that you guys wanted to pass, especially targeting domiciliary challenged individuals, that those were not the case about it being for everyone. It seems like you got that it's only going to benefit people with a lot of money regardless of what their background is. Some people have just had hard times in life, and that's what has brought them into the position they're in. So how does that develop and help those who are economically disfranchised due to things that have happened and people want to judge them by their past? How does the urban development and economic growth help grow for all citizens of Kalamazoo, not just for the few wealthy?
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Bishop Dennis Tillman, resident of Kalamazoo, Michigan. I just want to share something with you that's been on my heart. I love what's going on within the city downtown, and but also one of the ladies that came up here, and I respect what she said, open it up for everybody, you know, to be a part of something that the city is growing and coming together and doing everything for the people.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Patty Owens, and I used to live downtown. I don't now, but I do run a business that is based in beautiful downtown Kalamazoo. I've had the honor to serve on the DDA board, the DKI board, the DTI board, multiple committees throughout the years. And I can tell you right now that the organizations that we have right now within our city, both the city commission and staff, and the staff and boards for the DDA and the other D's organizations, are for the first time in my experience in beautiful downtown Kalamazoo collaborating to create a very welcoming community for everybody. We saw in the slideshow that they put on, Andrew and Rebecca and Jennifer, that diversity is an important tenet of our core values here within the city. And I do believe that they will try to build as inclusive of a downtown, given this new funding mechanism through the DEGA board. So I would encourage you to please vote yes on passing this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commission. First off, thank you for reviewing this proposal for the Downtown Economic Development or Economic Growth Authority.
Could we get your name and whether you live
My
in
name
the
is
city?
Carl Brown. I live in the city. I live in the Edison neighborhood, and I have operated a business in the downtown for the last 8 years. In the time that I've been in downtown, I've also been involved with DKI and have become a member of the DDA board and have been engaged in driving the marketing and the expansion of activities in downtown. One of the things that I've seen on a number of occasions up until now is lots of discussion about how the finances work for downtown to be able to build the new things that are necessary. And one of the challenges is new buildings are expensive. That's led to what has felt like two separate Kalamazoos, and a downtown that is accessible if you have the financial means and not necessarily if you don't. Seeing this plan come forward with a key component for access to affordable housing, with a key component to access for workforce housing, with a key component to access for workforce development, those are key factors that will help drive new entrepreneurship downtown and that will help to bring a more vibrant and a more economically diverse downtown Kalamazoo. I think that access to these citizen councils and to more people being engaged in the work of promoting the downtown and in the steering of what's happening downtown will help to create a more diverse downtown because we have more voices at the table. And seeing a new plan to engage those voices is something that I would encourage you to vote to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Jeff Brenneman, live at 525 South Burdick, downtown resident, business owner. Very happy that we're all here tonight, that we're considering this. This is the thought of a lot of collaboration, a lot of planning, and a lot of innovation in policy, public policy. So kudos to the team that came up with this. We have to remember that the current TIF is run its course. There is no money left if we continue to go under the current TIF. We have to make some changes to make this work. This is an innovative way to do it. These new coalitions are going to be great. We encourage all the folks that are here. I'm on the DDA. We encourage all the folks that are here to apply. We have another month yet with these applications to be open. Let's get a lot of folks involved on all the different 4 coalitions so we can make things better in our community. Thanks for your support.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Rhonda Stewart. I'm part of the Bronson and Cabinet Group. I just want to say to you as leaders, and one is sitting right now, and I'm looking out, I'm proud of you, Shannon. You did what it took. And yeah, I wish I could have stayed down there that night in question. Don Cooney, I love you. I'm quite sure it's all over the news. This needs to be really recognized. I want to share the experience why I feel why I'm here. I supported that group day one. We have stigmatism in our world. I'm called a peacemaker. Pastor Moore is a real good vital sign of me in my life. I listen to him faithfully every Sunday. Our world is to be run by spiritual realm. We are all given positions. I hope one day I'll be a commissioner like Shannon. She dedicated her time. I love my people back there. I had surgery July 31st, and I made a commitment to show my approval.
Ma'am, make your comments to the commission, and this is regarding the downtown plan, so
okay.
If you'd speak to that would,
I will.
Thank you.
I think entertainment is okay, but people's lives are more important. I live in a Dutton area, and I see a whole lot of abandoned buildings. And people want to tear these houses down for parking lots. That pushes people more homeless. I almost became homeless, but I came down to that park and I supported it just to get outside myself. I mean, entertainment is good, but it doesn't help the situation by pushing people into them kind of frames. It just doesn't. Credit on people's lives. It just doesn't. I mean, I love Kalamazoo. I mean, it's pretty, but that doesn't pay my bill. When I'm in a situation where I have bad credit or whatever. I mean, it's beautiful. Kalamazoo is beautiful. I've been here all my life. But where does it help? Where does it help for people that's homeless? I mean, they have a life that's bad enough. But when you're tearing down these abandoned buildings that can be used, it's like Habitat for Humanity. We can get training structure from people. I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I work for Stephanie Moore. I'm her housekeeper with a disability. And I think if we get more involved with that, of why buildings shouldn't be built like that, it's going to be more homelessness. It's going to be more robberies because they're pushed. They're pushed because they have no leadership, And y'all have leadership. You know, I show leadership within myself. And it's a waste of time. Get these abandoned buildings and start a training program like Habitat for Humanity. What is...
Ma'am, your time has expired. Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. Good to see all of you, and thank you for listening for a couple of minutes to my comments. My name is Robert Sanabro. I'm a Kalamazoo City resident. I currently serve as treasurer of the Kalamazoo Downtown Partnership, formerly known as DKI. I'm here to support the vote this evening. I'm here to support the vote on DAGA. This is a window of opportunity for all of us here in this community. And I want to just make a comment. I'm really glad to see citizen engagement this evening. It's so good to see the chambers full. I'm glad to see that, regardless of our diverse points of view. I want to encourage everyone in this room to take a close look at the coalitions. You heard Andrew Hahn and Jennifer Jelinek speak tonight to the coalitions. The coalitions are a serious, innovative step forward in citizen engagement for everyone, not just certain people, not just certain income levels or anything else. No, there is no panacea for all the social ills in our community, but this is a step forward in my opinion. I don't detect any hidden agendas here or any nefarious schemes. This is a really, really good staff from the DKI working in collaboration with our city administration. I know they put their hearts and soul into this. I strongly encourage a yes vote on this. I think it's an exciting window of opportunity. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank citizens for being here this evening. It's good to see them come. I do urge a yes vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Ricky Woolfolk. I am a resident of Kalamazoo, also a homeless man, and also a father. Today, I come up here to speak on behalf of my brothers and my sisters that were staying within the encampment. I am here to say that I hear everybody speaking of their growth and development of this downtown area, which is really good, but what are we truly doing? Are we actually really trying to help the city, or are we trying to help ourselves? What's really going on? I want to see less talking, save more money, and use our resources. We can actually do something right for not just yourselves, but everybody else. We can actually show our children that we have done something to progress our city and our town, not just waste away everything. Like I seen a few days ago that y'all wasted $17,000 just to clean up after us downtown. $17,000, really? That could have went to more development for what y'all are talking about now. So please, just make a better decision on what y'all spend your money on. That's all I got to say for now. Thank you, and y'all have a wonderful night. God bless.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? I just want to speak out in favor. I'm Bob Lewis. I'm one of the partners in Millennium Restaurant Group, been a business partner downtown for 20 years now plus. Came to Kalamazoo years ago for school and ended up staying because I love the community, love the town, love everything that's going on here. It's great to see, and especially as I sit here and listen to everybody, not just all of you up there with the commission and mayor and vice mayor, but everybody out here, no matter who spoke, there was a great passion for downtown. Everybody is incredibly passionate about it, whether we work downtown, go to school downtown, or building downtown. But if you look around downtown right now, there's changes coming. I mean, 15 stories finally downtown that have been coming from years, Lot 9 development, and I think this authority, this new thing that's coming that needed to be put in place to replace DKI, to move forward, to take it, is a necessary entity to control all this so it doesn't get out of hand, so things are brought in the right direction and brought in for everybody. And as the gentleman a couple minutes ago said, the coalitions are a perfect example of that. These coalitions are open to everybody. It's not just the people with money, not just the business owners. It's everybody that has an opportunity or wants to be part of that. It's the citizens, it's the business owners, it's people in city government. So we keep a well-rounded for that in those groups. And as far as opportunities, yes, I agree with the gentleman that was just before me. It needs to be for ourselves, and it needs to be for the city, but one will beget the other. As a business owner downtown, that development, as I look at these buildings coming in and a critical mass of people coming in, it's going to create more jobs. It's going to create more opportunities across the board. So again, I'm just here to speak in favor of it. I think we're all passionate about downtown, and I think this organization and this new opportunity is something that's going to help keep it cohesively all together to make sure it benefits everybody down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Hopewell and Commissioners. My name is Jack Hopkins. I do not live in Kalamazoo, in the city, but I've worked in the city of Kalamazoo since I came to town from Maryland through Ohio in 1975. I want to thank you first and foremost for your public service to this great community, the county seat of Kalamazoo County. Your vision and those who preceded you have changed this community in ways that are indelible and will lead this community long into the future as one of the bright spots, if not the brightest spot, in the state of Michigan and really throughout the country. When I first began working at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation in 1975 on the third floor of the Comerica building, I looked out at a creek that was flooded. I looked past I think it was the Sheridan at that time, it may have been a different name, at a topless bar, and places that could not in fact get insurance or bank loans. And with cooperation of this governmental body, philanthropy, and a few businesses that were willing to take a risk back then, this community has become a safe place, a wonderful place, a growing place for people from throughout this community. The philanthropy of the Kalamazoo Promise, the Foundation for Excellence, and now this opportunity, they all spur growth and opportunity for all of us. For our young people, once they get the benefits of the promise, to stay here and work here and grow here and have families here and start businesses here and continue the growth and vitality of this community. I've had an opportunity since I retired 11 years ago when people thought we'd move out to Phoenix where I had 2 sons. I said, why would we do that? This is where we raised our family. This is where our friends are. This is the community that nurtured our family over the years. This is the place we love. We love it. We call it home. So I decided I'd do a little consulting. I've had the pleasure of working with a gentleman behind me who had the vision for the exchange and has dedicated his life to making that possible in downtown Kalamazoo. I decided to co-chair the capital campaign with a wonderful woman to build a new ministry with community to help the people in our community who are less fortunate than I happen to be and that many of us happen to be, who need the help and support and the vitality to grow out of their circumstances. I believe this DAGA opportunity will lead this community and lead this state and basically this country in a new direction, and you have an opportunity tonight to do so. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to comment on this item? Seeing no one, commissioners, the requested action is a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
I move that.
Moved by Commissioner Sykes, supported by Commissioner Irvin. Discussion? Commissioner Sykes.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of talk about inclusion and diversity and all of that, and so I don't want to go too deep into that because I agree and will be supporting supporting the creation of the DAGA tonight. But I do want to ask folks to keep in mind. And if you don't mind, can everybody raise their hands for me that are here in support of the DAGA creation, if you're willing? Yeah. So I just, from my vantage point looking out, we still got to keep working on diversity a lot. I hear everybody's intention to form these coalitions and have various residents of our community on as a part of those coalitions. I do hope that will be open regardless of income level or class status or whether or not you live in a home, and also obviously racial diversity, age diversity, that sort of stuff. So I am glad that folks have started talking about how to do that downtown, and I guess I would just say, again, from my vantage point looking out, there's a lot of work to do with diversity, so I'm excited that folks will be getting started on that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Commissioner Anderson.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. This is a tool that was created by state statute to help primarily urban communities here in the state of Michigan. And this is a tool that's been around for a little while. And I can say from the experience I have had here on the City Commission, we have not always had the best relationship with our downtown organizing entity, the DDA through DKI and that sort of thing. There's been challenges in that relationship over the course of time. And it is indeed the case that if in a community, those of us who are basically attempting to head in the same direction and have important issues that we want to address cannot find ways to work together and collaborate, well then I think it is most assuredly the case that we will not be successful. I know that maybe some of the disagreements we've had in the past related to our direction here has some validity on both sides, but I really want to give a lot of credit to our new now organizers and kind of administrators here with our downtown entity, and to our city staff, and particularly our city manager, Jim Ritzma, who have, in my estimation, created just a new day for discussion and an opportunity for us to take advantage of this tool, which is specifically set up for this purpose. It is the case that we have witnessed here in Kalamazoo the death of downtowns when sprawl occurred and malls were created. And now today, very interesting here, we're witnessing the bankruptcy of Sears, which was a key component of the sprawl that helped drive malls as people moved away from downtowns. And I do remember that when Sears began in this community, I think it was located in what we now call the Haymarket Building in downtown Kalamazoo, originally multi-floor building before it moved out and really created what was empty and unsafe and non-vibrant places in our downtowns. And now the time has come, I think, when people recognize once again the importance, the absolute importance of downtowns as economic drivers, as job providers, as places where people can come together and share that experience of community, which I think is more important than ever now when these days it seems like often the community we experience is an online community rather than a human interaction first-person community. It gives us an opportunity to support that as well. So it is just amazing to me that we experienced this arc and we are now working together to take advantage of the tools that are available to us to once again, ground this county seat as Mr. Hopkins, our downtown for the entire county, are recognized, and do that together in a way that I think is going to drive great things going forward. So I appreciate everybody's work on this, and I'm very, very supportive of this action tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Urban?
Thank you, Mayor Hopewell. I wanted to draw our attention again to the creation of these coalitions and the staffing of those 4 coalitions. I would very much like to be a member of those, but I realize that 1, I don't live in the downtown area. 2, I am not part of the demographic that really supplies diversity to any of those groups. And so if I end up being on those groups, it's because somebody else didn't apply. I'm only going to take up space because somebody who's more representative of our diversity in our community didn't step up. So please keep me off of that thing, because I'm going to do all I can from outside to encourage it. So just do your part and we'll be okay.
Commissioner Cunningham.
So to echo some of the sentiments of my colleagues, although I can't speak to what the Sears movement was back in before my time.
Ouch.
Policy is only as good as the people that execute. When this first came out, my first reaction was to see what the small business community or the micro businesses in our community, their feelings towards this opportunity. And it's rare that, collectively, every single person that I've engaged has nothing but positive sentiments towards the DAGA. And even to hear Mama Gigi come up here and question some of the things that brings concerns. But overall, Mr. Hahn, you did an amazing job championing this, all of the city staff who have worked diligently to assist in this process. I commend all of you for the work that you have done. And I just want to ask that everyone who is in this audience, that you continue to not only monitor the DAGA, but hold them accountable. This is the opportunity where, it's not always, it's always easier said than done in regards to this diversity component. And so there needs to be some people of color or someone of diverse background, whether, no matter what that demographic is, who can also play an integral role in this opportunity moving forward. So I really want to admonish you guys to stay engaged, and I think the key term is holding this organization accountable. I'm really excited for the work that you guys are about to do.
Thank you. Any other comments, Commissioner? Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think this is really a great plan, and I'm very much in support of it. I'm sure I commend the people that put this together. There's no doubt in my mind that this will lead to economic development, and I think that's so important for a city. A city's got to have a vibrant, beautiful downtown. But I'm hearing and I'm hoping that this is going to be more than about economic development. It's going to be about creating a beautiful, rich in culture, commons for our community. And that's the vision that really excites me. I think a great example of that right now is what happens in our library. Our library is for everybody. Everybody's welcome there. Everybody enjoys it. We have a beautiful room for children. We have so much in there. And I think that's the model that we need for our downtown. A downtown that is rich in beauty, in culture, and in opportunities for everybody. And I think to make that happen, we have to really work on welcoming and inclusivity. And I'm confident that that's going to happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sykes.
Yeah, I'm sorry to do this because I know you guys are ready for the vote. I also just wanted to say, and thank you, Commissioner Urban, for your comments. I needed that tonight. Real quick, while folks are in the room, there are a number of business owners and also developers in the room, so I want to take the opportunity also just to say that I think that as development happens and more jobs are created, my hope is that you all will be thinking about where you are hiring from. You know, I've lifted it up a million times, and I'm probably off on the statistic now by a few points or whatnot. But the last that the statistic was given to us, as far as I know, 85% of the people who work in our city don't live here or did not live here. And so, you know, when we talk about homelessness, when we talk about poverty, you know, when folks come in with complaints about panhandling in front of their businesses, that sort of thing, if we can get folks jobs in our city center, then that helps alleviate a lot of that. And frankly, some of you who are blessed enough to be business owners, to be a little bit better off, to have the ability to develop, there's an opportunity there, right, to offer some opportunities to folks who need it. So I hope we'll be thinking about that. I hope you will stay, you know, again, keep an eye on how many of our residents are actually getting these jobs that you're creating, and let's, you know, spread the wealth a little bit. Thanks.
Thank you. Just a quick question. How many of you in the audience need a job? Want a job? How many of you folks in the audience have jobs that you're hiring for? Okay, keep your hands up. All right, so those folks should connect with those folks and create opportunities. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. Mr. Manager, next item, please, unfinished business. Or do you have a report this evening?
Yeah, I just want to provide an update on work groups relative to the homelessness issue. A week before last, the week of October 1st, the small groups met on around basic needs, physical health and health care, mental health and emotion supports, and housing, I believe, met too. The meetings included representatives from community organizations, about 39 in total, and individuals who are currently homeless or have experienced homelessness. Throughout the work group meetings, people shared stories that express the varying needs of those experiencing homelessness or who are precariously housed. Some of our community members are trying to prevent homelessness, others need short-term assistance, and others need long-term support. So the next steps include validating and sharing what was learned at the first round of meetings, and then validating what we heard and what is suggest for the short and medium-term actions. We anticipate convening additional conversations in the next 2 weeks that will and provide details to the participants, commission, and on our website. City staff have also conducted outreach to individuals experiencing homelessness in MLK Park and plan to host a meeting later this month, tentatively scheduled for October the 25th, to create opportunities for increased involvement to shape solutions and immediate next steps. Individuals will be invited to participate in the work groups as well. And I just wanted to give that update based on the work that's been done the last 2 weeks. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Questions for the manager? Commissioner Sykes.
Yeah, just quick question. So those meetings coming up over the next 2 weeks, will those, the details on those go out to the whole list? Do you know?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, you have a report this evening?
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to mention that absentee ballots are available for the November 6th election. And you have to have a written request to get the ballot. We can send you the application to do that. We also have opened up our absentee balloting area, our room in our office, where you can come in person to pick up a ballot. So if you have any questions, give us a call. If you've requested an absentee ballot and haven't received one yet, please call us, because things happen with the mail. We want to make sure that you have your ballot, and there are things that we can do to make sure that you get that ballot into your hands. So, thank you.
Questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question, Clerk Borlane, I hope you will be able to answer. But I have heard from a couple sources that people are concerned because of the size of the absentee ballot envelope. They are wondering if they just put a stamp on it, will that be sufficient to get it back to you, or does it require 2 stamps? How does one determine how much postage has to go onto the absentee ballot if they mail it back to you?
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. What we have told people since I've been the clerk is 1 first-class stamp will get your ballot back. Now, having said that, I can tell you from anecdotal evidence that if you take your ballot to the post office, you try to be a good doobie and say, hey, I want to mail this, how much is it? That they may say that you need additional postage. But, yeah. But we tell people, put a first-class stamp on it, 1 stamp, and it gets back to us. I can go up to our ballot room and have hundreds of examples of ballots that are coming back with a single stamp. So, and then the other issue is if sometimes if you ask, well, what is the extra postage that's charged, that can vary based on which post office you go to, which clerk you get there, and so on. So it's not even a case where I can say, oh, well, if they do require extra, this is what it is. So we tell people first class stamp, and they get back to us.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney, you have a report this evening?
No, Your Honor.
We are now at unfinished business, Mr. Manning.
We have approval of the sale of the city-owned lots at 3120 and 3122 Oakland Drive, parcel number 0629474-012 and 0629474-011 to Consumers Credit Union for $15,000, and direct the city manager to work with the purchaser and the adjoining neighborhoods to incorporate the recommendations of the joint statement of the adjoining neighborhoods dated October 12, 2018, into the tentative and final site plan review process prior to construction to the extent permitted by law.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I'm going to also have the city attorney talk to the sale of city property and what is required related to that in regards to purchasing prices and things of that nature.
Just 2 points. As you've already witnessed, under our city charter, it requires a 2-step process because of the value here, and we're in the second half of that process, so you are able to act on that this evening. The other thing is, because it's public property, the taxpayers have a stake in it, and we have to acquire it through our fair market value. And that's been usually because when the city owns it, it's exempt from taxation. Our city assessor used market studies and the neighborhood that it's in. There's a variety of things they take into effect. Number 1, its size. Number 2, its location. Number 3, what is its highest and best use. So all that goes into the calculation that the assessor makes, and then they come up with a fair market value for the property.
Thank you. Anyone wanting to speak on this item, please step forward. You have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and thank you. Scott Sylvester. I'm an employee of Consumers Credit Union, and I'm speaking on their behalf. We're a locally formed financial institution in Kalamazoo since 1951. And in June of 2016, we purchased 5 parcels at the corner of Oakland and Parkview. You may all be familiar with that property of being the old Bacchus store, and there is an old barber shop there. And the city also, through an NBAT grant, acquired what I believe was a dry cleaners quite some time ago to improve the intersection. So we have been working closely with the city to come up with a basic site plan that meets the master plan that the city has for the community. And that's attached to your purchase agreement that you see in your packet. Once Consumers Credit Union is ready to start this project, we plan to connect with the neighborhood, and we already have done so. We had a meeting with all the associations last week in which I believe all their presidents were there, and some residents were also there. We probably had about 25 people. We had been in contact with the Oakland and Winchell Association back in July as well. Certainly an oversight on our behalf that we missed the Woods Association, which I believe you heard a comment from that association member at the last meeting, and we believe we've remedied that. We believe there may be environmental challenges with this site. The city did do some remediation of that dry cleaning site. We have filed our environmental reports with the DEQ and have a baseline environmental assessment that's been done. However, we have not, as we try to acquire this property, we've not gone to the city for full site plan approval on the parcels that we own yet. We have not hired engineers that will do the study necessary to make sure that we handle this property and take, obviously care of what environmental concerns there might be there. We'd like to work again closely with the neighborhood associations as we move through that full site plan approval. We did commission for a comprehensive commercial appraisal where we jointly went with the city of Kalamazoo on this. It came back with a fair market value of $0. The site is significantly small. It has no access. It's significantly impaired by consumers' utilities, transformers, poles, of which they will not remove at any price tag. There's also a large 60-foot easement that runs along Parkview, which covers about 90% of the city-owned parcel. So with all of this in mind, we would hope that you would approve this purchase agreement tonight, and we're excited about improving that corner for the community and the neighborhoods we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, Commissioners requested actions, a motion to approve and give direction to the city manager. Is there a motion? Moved by Vice Mayor Knott, supported by Commissioner Anderson. Discussion? Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Sykes?
Yes.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott?
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. We are now at item L, citizens' comments on any item this evening. Please step to the podium. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Anyone can go before signing in, so thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Carl Wiseman, homeless resident, Kalamazoo. I would like to say something to you, Mr. Cooney. Earlier you said that the library is for everyone and everyone is welcome at the library. That is a false statement. I've seen many individuals kicked out of the library that were homeless because they had their suitcase with them, or their backpack was too large, or things of that various nature. People have been banned from public bus stations as well for some of the same reasons, whether they were taking the bus or not. I myself, back in February of 2017, I was referred to as people like you by a police officer while I was waiting for a bus at Kalamazoo Metro Transit Center, simply because I had my belongings with me as I was waiting for the bus. And you guys made a promise when we talked the very first time to house 3 different families. That was part of the agreement. But you, Mr. Anderson, helped put a young woman and her son, who is a brilliant man, young man, who came to Kalamazoo, and the reason she came to Kalamazoo with her son getting ready to start school was for one simple reason: the Kalamazoo Promise. That child had an opportunity and a brighter future, but you couldn't find them housing, but you could find them a way to put them on the bus and ship them out of the community so they weren't a bother to you anymore after making a promise. And you made me break a promise to this young man as well. He was a bright kid who had a bright future. He still is. But had he been here in Kalamazoo and given the opportunities and the tools provided by that Kalamazoo promise, he could be sitting right up there on one of your guys' spots and actually making a Kalamazoo a better place for everyone. He had brilliant ideas, and you guys shut the lamp out on that little boy by your poor choices and your poor decisions. And I would like to read something for you, since you guys said prayer earlier, which tells me that you are at least somewhat religious. I am going to read for you Isaiah chapter 10. And you guys create these laws, so I'm going to say to you, woe to those who make unjust laws, and to those who issue oppressive decrees to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. What will you do on your day of reckoning when disaster comes from afar? To whom will you run for help? Where will you leave your riches? Nothing will remain but the cringe among the captives, to fall among the slain. Yet for this, his anger is not turned away. His arm is reached afar.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Faith Velichtra. I'm part of the Bronson Park Freedom Encampment, and I'm sure you all know me by now. I hear a lot of talk of trying to make downtown beautiful, which I'm all for, but I'm also for helping our lesser fortunate community members in the fact of, instead of seeing some pretty trees or pretty store faces, why don't we try to have the community come together to help everybody and actually make it welcoming to come to Kalamazoo. If I were from somewhere else, I wouldn't want to come here. Definitely not. Not with the way we look at our community. Let's help the rich and the business owners and everybody else, and not the people that truly need the help. Like my brother Ricky said earlier, you spent $17,000 to clean a park because of you're homeless. Over $800 of that was to one police officer for overtime. Over $5,000 of it was to the police department in and of itself for overtime. Over $3,000 of it was to sanitize the park because we're dirty, right? Yeah, we have trouble getting a shower here and then, have trouble brushing our teeth. We even have trouble getting food. But you know what? At least I have morals. At least I feel respect for people that actually earn it. Because I've been raised with the mindset of respect everybody until they give you a reason not to. And honestly, a lot of you have lost at least one community member's respect. And it pains me to know that I sit here and I've spoken at these meetings and I have bared my heart and my soul into trying to get you to realize that just because people have money doesn't make them more important than me or than any other person that is a part of this. Just because you have money doesn't give you a name. And just because you have money doesn't mean you can throw people out on the sidewalk because they don't fit your cultural status. I hear talk about seeing the diversity and the culture of our city. Why'd you tear down the beautiful cultural statues in Bronson Park? Why was that done? For some more grass that we can sanitize. It's sad. It's truly sad that half of you don't seem to care. It's truly appalling.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
You guys. Chris Walmart, 1407. I live by the motto, change begins in the mirror first, then your house, your street, and your city. And I got knocked back to my house level, which everybody knows about up here. You all have done a good job of calling me crazy over the last little bit. This was given to me on the night we put TJ in the ground, so I wanted to remind you all why I'm crazy and I scream. I'm planning on this being the last night I walk into this building. It turns my stomach walking in here. Urban, I do want to at least give you this. I believe you try everything you can to figure stuff out. You called me violent. Said that, you know, it was a warning. You weren't directing it at me, but that everybody thinks I'm violent. How many people in your daily life have you had die? How many dead babies have you had to hold in your hand when they're still warm? You call my words violent. Words! I'm curious. We already lost one, R.I.P. Glenn. How many homeless people do you think that you wrote a death sentence for this summer? How many people do you think, now don't blame this garbage on Lansing or Wall Street, this dais. How many people do you think you served a death sentence to? You've served a lot of them already. This isn't the first homeless person I've known dead, is it? I know some of you younger commissioners don't know about it, but we've had rounds around the dead, haven't we? I'm supposed to give you day-old Sarkozy's bread, but I couldn't get it. I'm told you guys understand what that means. That's even before me. Respect. I'm going to do something I almost have never done. 1 John 4, 9, and 10 on my back. I never talk about being a Christian because that's a hard word. And Christians do a lot of things I don't agree with, so I act it and I don't talk it. Respect. Read Matthew, Christian brother. That word is an abomination now. 3 families promised, 1 cent. Vice Mayor not. This got $42 million this year. 43 actually, it was 43 million, right? We got $43 million in February and Kalamazoo could find 1 house. And you said when we were doing all this it was back rooms. So what's happening in the back rooms? Honestly, outside of Shannon, I don't got much for the rest of you. I've watched too many people die. I don't care what you say that you want to do. I don't care what your convictions are. I've seen what your action does. And it has left a lot of dead people around me. I'm not going to come in this room and ask for something like the Ducks. I'm going to do it in spite of you. Because there is no working with this city. You've shown that. You don't care. You do not care who dies. You do not care who dies. I do have one other thing to say. You, David Anderson, are an abomination to community mental health. I do have that to say, loudly. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Blessings, Bishop Dennis Tillman. I just wanted to share with you that we see a lot.
Can we get your name? And
Bishop Dennis Tillman. I am a resident. We see a lot going on within this community. I grew up in this community. I was born and raised. But I would like to say one thing, that it's not just one-sided, but it's working together. There's actions that have been taken and people have been dealing with issues, but also the ones that are homeless must help better themselves to grow, and to the leaders must provide those groups, those programs that will not only have shelter, but that will help them and be uplifted and also not feel down or depressed, but that will encourage them rather than discourage them. And we see a lot going on within our community, but I would like to share with you, our community is a great promise city, and I love what you're doing for the community, but at the end of the day, we got to look for the people that are going through and help them out. They are in need right now. There's so much happening, you know, me, been in a place where I was homeless and been in a place where I couldn't sleep at the gospel mission. It was freezing one night, but I want to share with you that even though there were disagreements these past few weeks, but I pray that this community come together, and I thank God for what's to come, because it's better than what's been. I have faith in each and every one of you that you guys will work it out for the good of those that are going through, and I have faith that you will continue to work it out. And no matter what it looks like, help them, because they live within the city and before you build the city. And I respect what you're doing for the city downtown, but at the end of the day, the people must be heard, and their voice and their needs must be helped. And to lend a hand to them, say, I care for you, and we love you, and we respect you, and we treat you with dignity, and we give you what you need, but you got to help yourself first and better yourself before you receive anything else. If you're not bettering yourself, how can you receive to, you know, get hand-downs or whatever the city has for them? But I would like to share with you that many times in my life I dealt with issues of being homeless, and I just thought about it, and I said I had to better myself before I get help from someone else. I have to encourage myself before I be encouraged by someone else. I have to uplift myself before someone else uplifts me, because I know that God sees something in me for me to do His will. So I encourage everyone today that you continue to keep the faith, that you continue to hold on, that you continue to do what's right with one another and help one another grow. And at the end of the day, it's all about the people coming together and standing up for the rights of our community and those that live within this community. Your voice will be heard, and if I'm not here next year, I know something's going to come into agreement for you guys to have a long-term solution. I have faith in that, believe in the leaders, and trust the leaders right here. God has appointed them, let them do their job, and y'all help better yourselves. God bless.
Thank you. Next, please. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Michael Reiser. Last name spelled R-I-Z-O-R. I've been coming up here for about a month, and this guy over here still has not figured out how to spell my last name on a YouTube channel. It's ridiculous. Sorry. I'm up here because, David Anderson, I'm appalled. You sent a homeless family to Arkansas. Do you realize that in Arkansas you can be jailed and fined for not paying rent on time? One day late. One day, you're late. They can charge you and send you to jail. And back to what Chris was saying. How many more homeless people have to die in this city before the city does something? Jim Risman, you brought up the work group meetings. I am sorry to say it's a little too late. Glenn, for years, he had a place, but due to lack of resources here in Kalamazoo City and Kalamazoo County, he did not get the help that he needed to keep his place. He's a blind individual. He has mental health issues. He could not get the help that he needed in this city, the help he needed in this county. He is now laying in a city morgue until somebody comes to claim his body. And the only family that I know of that he has currently are homeless. And according to city laws and whatnot, nobody can claim him until 30, I don't know how many days it is, can't claim him. So he just sits there, and if nobody claims him, he goes somewhere else, he gets cremated, his body gets thrown in an unmarked grave. How many more homeless people are you going to is this city going to throw into a unmarked grave when they die because of exposure to the elements, because the mission has kicked them out for the night, the mission has barred them from services? How many more homeless people are going to die on these streets? How many more homeless people are going to become disabled because the lack of resources? How many more homeless people are going to die because the mission chooses to bar them, chooses to kick them out because they had a little too much to drink? There's way too many people that I know of that have died the last year because they were barred from the mission. Way too many people that I know of have lost limbs due to being forced out into the freezing cold here in Michigan by the mission. So my question is, how many more homeless people have to suffer at the hands of the mission before the city chooses to step in and do something? And do not play this game. It's a private organization. They can do whatever they want. They still have oversight. I am done seeing health inspectors walk into the mission and sign a piece of paper without doing a proper inspection. When will the fire department actually do their job?
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next, please. Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Michael Hewitt. I live in the Vine neighborhood. First of all, Mr. City Clerk, my ballot was returned last year with postage due, so now I just, walk in and deliver it to your office. But anyway, I don't know what I can add to what these people said. I really don't. These business people, they want free money to increase their profits. That's what they're all after for. Second thing is, there are two different districts being proposed. You want the one downtown, and you want to keep the minorities and the poor people on the north side. Where is the inclusion in that? Why are there two separate proposals out there? Seriously, why? Second thing, $17,000 that could have been used for something else? My question is, where did that money come from, and what is not being done in this city that should be done with that money? You want to spend $40 million on Bronson Park just to make the Radisson richer? I mean, come on, guys. There's some screwed up priorities here. And what I'm saying is, the elections are coming up soon, and no one's job is guaranteed. So seriously, you've got to get serious about this. I mean, you expect the homeless people to work with you, Mr. Ritzma, but you don't keep your promises. How do you expect them to do that? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Roger Jimenez. Been in Kalamazoo County my whole life, but been in Kalamazoo since I was 16, so about 20 years. I was up here 2 weeks ago, I think, or whenever the last one was, when I was the one who talked about being a worker and not making enough money per hour to afford rent in Kalamazoo. And I didn't have any of my information with me, so I spent the day today in the library doing my research to make sure that I had my facts right. And I just want to present some of them numbers to you. Again, I'm not asking you guys to change anything, but if you can be a voice behind a movement that goes to the people it needs to go to get some things changed, where people who are out there working really hard every day are getting the compensation they need to get into rent play, to be able to pay rent. That's really what's going to alleviate most of the homeless problem. So in October of 2018, the average rent in Kalamazoo was $890 per month. So what they do when they come up with that number is they take one-bedroom apartments all the way up to three-bedroom apartments, they add all of that together, divide it by the number of available apartments in Kalamazoo, and they come up with an average. So that's at $890. The cheapest place to live now in Kalamazoo is in the Millwood area at $687 a month for rent, and that's for a one-bedroom. The two jobs that I previously had were part-time jobs. I averaged 25 hours a week. Both jobs, I averaged about $975 a month. That was what, before taxes. I was making minimum wage, $9.25 an hour. Well, there's a law that says you cannot pay more than 40%. You can't pay, you can't pay more than 40% of your utilities or rent of whatever your average monthly income is. So based on what I was making per hour with the 25 hours a week, the only thing I would have been able to afford is an apartment if I could find one for $210 a month. That's obviously not possible in the city of Kalamazoo. I told you guys last time I was here about my struggle, so I'm not going to rehash that. But what I have done since then, I saw Cooney down there over by the jail. But I went out and got a full-time job on my own, and so now I work for Sweetwater Donuts. I'm pretty happy about that. But using that example, I did the numbers on that too, because I make $10 an hour there, which is 75 cents more an hour than what I was making. And I average about 35 to 40 hours a week. So given those numbers, I make about $350 a week before taxes, which gives me an income of $1,400 a month. So at 40% of that, with utilities included, I can afford a rent payment of $560. So if the average rent payment in Kalamazoo is $890, and I can only afford $560, that's a problem, and that's why I continue to stay homeless. The Airport Inn is charging $235 a week to live there. I'd rather put my $235 into the bank. So that's what I wanted to present to you guys tonight. And like I said, I'm not asking you to change anything. I know that things are not all within your power. But if you can be a voice behind the reason, behind the movement to get some of the things changed so that we can better ourselves, I think it would go a long way. So guys, have a good night.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Peter Battani, I live at 1303 Hillcrest. And really what I'm here to do tonight is I've been watching all of this transpire regarding the homelessness situation is to come to you and say, I have a great deal of trust in you. I have a great deal of confidence in you. I am very appreciative of the fact that you're sitting there and I'm not. That, you know, you have difficult jobs, being a public official, to try to make ends meet, stretch the dollar. You have statutory obligations, you have constitutional obligations, you have to pave streets, you have to make sure there's fire and police, you have to make sure the water's protected. These are all things that you are given the responsibility to do, along with certain aspects of the general welfare of the public. And there's never enough. And I want to just say how much I'm grateful for all of you, for the mayor, for everyone here, for the city manager. It's a great group of people. I have confidence in you. No matter what you do, I mean, many of the concerns that have been expressed, as you well know, the last gentleman who just spoke about making ends meet, those are true. You know, those are true. Those are human stories. And I know you feel these because I know each one of you personally. Some of you longer than others. I know you're compassionate people, you're moral people, you're bright-minded people, you care. If you had the power to do certain things, you do them. But you don't have the power to do everything. And so you have to make tough choices. And that doesn't make you immoral. It means that you are attempting to live a moral life in a world that is very difficult and that seems to be burning around us as we all watch the world and the state of affairs in the country. But this place is a progressive place. This place is a great place to be, and we've worked on some of these issues. Commissioner Cooney, you and I worked on communities and schools 25 years ago, and look where it is now. And a number of you, we worked on transit, and look where it is now. And David Anderson, Commissioner Anderson, and I worked on homelessness and housing back in the early 90s. Every one of you, and you know, Commissioner Knott, neighborhood issues, you care. you know, you care. And it hurts me to watch people come up and yell at you and tell you that you're immoral, because I know I've had those things, you know, to me. You're doing the best you can do. I'm proud of you. You've got a committee or you've got work groups that are coming up with some ideas. You're going to come up with some ideas, and you got to make something happen. But you're not going to solve homelessness. You're not going to solve it. You're not going to solve it. The only thing you're going to do is to try to move the ball forward a little bit and keep everything else going, keep all the other balls up in the air and the economic development stuff and everything. So all I want to do is leave you with a big fat thank you. And I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to be a citizen of this great city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Yes, I'm Jeannette Evans. I'm here again. After listening to all the stuff that I heard about homelessness, and I go home to a warm bed every night, and it just does sadden me because I live in a 4-bedroom house, and I rent it, and I try to see if I can bring some people in, but my family says no because there's so many guidelines and this, but it does sadden me because I would love to take a family in there, but I think it has to go through. And they say, well, you won't have that peace that you want at night because you got to worry about them. And that's probably all true, but I don't worry about that. But I would love to help in any way that I can in doing something. And I need those people who keep hollering at the commission about what they're not doing and doing. They're doing the best that they can do. This is a big problem. This is not no city commission problem and no county commission problem. This is a city problem and a county problem. You guys need to understand that. You can come here and shout and holler all you want to. You just need to let the process work. I know some of you, I can't say that because I'm not homeless, but I feel for you guys. And if you speak what you say you believe, then allow the system to work for yourself. I'm not saying some of you guys not in trouble, but it's so many people who can turn this around for yourself. I'm not homeless, but I'm saying some of y'all can turn this around for yourself. And some of you guys do need a little help, but stop hollering at this, come here just to get your time to holler at the commission about what they need to do and what they should be doing. These people are doing what they can do, and if you're not, that's your problem. That's their heart if they're not doing what they're supposed to do or can do and hiding behind, because I know a lot of people talk a big game and ain't gonna do nothing. They just want to be seen just talking. But I'm not just talking. I'm just speaking from my heart because I don't understand it either. I don't understand homelessness. I worked all my life, so I don't understand it. I raised my kids by myself, but sometimes you gotta push yourself to do the best for your family and for yourself. You have to do that. Don't come here hollering at these people. They do the best we can like we all do. Sorry, I just had to get up and say, this is my second time talking today. And I usually come and just listen because I need to learn too. I'm trying to learn too, but anytime that I can help, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Michael Doyle, and I live here in Kalamazoo. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
My attention's been drawn to the homelessness issue given by the media, the TV, and the newspapers. And I've also familiarized myself with the commission and the homeless community and the courthouse. And I've been following certain events that have got my attention, and it's created some questions that I'd like to get some answers to. few of which I don't know if the city commission or a commissioner or maybe the mayor or the city manager may be able to answer. If you know an answer, you can provide it to me right now. And if not, please tell me how I can get the answer. Who ordered the or instructed the police to make the arrest at the Bronson Park?
Sir, we don't respond back. We let you have your comments, and I'm sure someone will talk with you afterwards. So feel free to ask all your questions, and we'll write them all down.
You can't respond back. Do you have any suggestions as to how I can find that answer out?
I'm going to let you ask your questions. The commissioners will have opportunities to comment afterwards. One of them may take that up, but at this time, it's just your time to say what you want to say.
This would be another question. You know, there was an initial deadline of Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. And I wondered who made the change from 7 p.m. Tuesday evening to Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. This is regarding a courthouse scenario when everyone was arraigned. I believe Ms. Sykes was arrested. And when I went down to the courthouse to find out more information regarding who was arrested and for what reason, she wasn't to be found, and so I wanted to know what was the reason for the drop charges and who initiated that, who created that instruction or order. And then with regards to money, I see the county who owns the park, ironically, the county owns the park and has provided $500,000 for the homeless community. And I see that the city has gone in the total reverse with making arrests in the amount of $18,000. So I don't understand why we're not on the same page with that. The county who owns the park is giving money and the city's taking it away. And they're actually using money where, and the question was raised earlier as to where did this money come from. That I'm gonna second that question. Where did that money come from? The $18,000 to make the arrest and clean up the park.
Sir, your time has expired. Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to be here. Jikwaza Indígena Kas. Jikwaza is my name. First, I want to thank you all for the tremendous job you did in removing the atrocity of that fountain out there. I really like the way that you brought the coordinator from the Ilinelli Museum from Chicago. I never knew who paid for him to come up and speak and tell about how great the artist was, but after, he seemed like he really admired him and really loved his work. And I know that the city has the statue stored away in 5 pieces in some kind of a warehouse or something. And my question is, the guy really liked it. Why not maybe proposition with him an agreement to maybe take the statue, take it out of this area completely. It doesn't need to be here. And I'll bet he might even pay because he likes it. He loves it. He loved his work. And it might be a way that maybe the city can make a couple bucks to pay and maybe begin becoming a progressive city, which I think is going to take a little bit of work, because what I do find is that there's still a mound out there, and that mound still has not even been addressed. It's like it doesn't exist, and it always has been that way. You do not want to acknowledge that there's a mound there, and all of the funerary objects have been removed, including the remains, but the spirit remains, and that mound must be addressed. And I think it's something that if you want to become known as a progressive city, you might want to consider acknowledging what is the most sacred to us, and that is our grandfathers, our ancestors. Our ancestors are in that mound, and they need to be properly respected and honored. There's not even a fence there. There's nothing there. And you've got this big event coming up, your light up night. What are you going to do to protect that mound so that people don't go on it? You got people that take dogs up there and let their dogs relieve themselves on the mound. Would you appreciate that if they did that to your grandparents' graves or your great-grandparents' graves, or maybe in the future your graves whenever you pass? Would you like to know that people are going to walk on it, they're going to party on it, they're going to have tents on it, they're going to allow their animals to relieve themselves on it? The other thing I would like to know, and this is a very important one, I would like you all to begin to look into the real meaning of Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving to us is not what you guys party about. Thanksgiving, we give thanks every day. But Thanksgiving, the way it's celebrated, if you look into the history, it annihilated our people every week. And that was Thanksgiving. And I think what we should do is change, just like we did Columbus Day to Indigenous Day, change it to Honor the Treaties Day. No more Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's every day. Honor the Treaties Day.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Ajawanan Kikwe Dishes Nakas, Shikandodum, works the Kalamazoo River in Donjaba. My name is Southern Thunder Woman. I'm Turtle Clan and I reside in the Albion Marshall area. I have no borders. I'm a Anishinaabe Kwe. I'm also known as Linda Cypher Kilburn. I'm here tonight as the co-chair of the Native American Indian Movement of West Michigan and also the co-founder of the Michigan Coalition Against Racism in Sports Media. Also, too, I would like to thank you for all of your efforts with the fountain and also changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day last year. I'm really disappointed still about a lot of the things I've been hearing. It really saddens me to hear some of the things that are going on with people here in Kalamazoo, and I hope that there's some type of resolution that can be brought, because these people really need help. The one thing I do want to speak up is one of our own, Paula Hill, who is a Native American who lives here, and I'm so disappointed and saddened by the things that I know has been happening to her, because she brought some homeless people home with her to provide shelter for them and help them try to get them on their feet and whatnot. And she's been constantly attacked, that's the way I feel about it, with officials approaching her home and the police over there all the time. And, you know, she never had that problem before. She was an abiding citizen, she has children, and now all of a sudden she has to deal with people knocking on her door all the time. It's ridiculous. And you really need to think about this, because it really looks bad. It looks bad. The Native people are pretty upset about it. There's no reason for it. She's never done anything. She's a good person. She has a big heart. She reached out to do what she could do down at the encampment for people. She lost her whole catering system. You know, that was what she did for a living, and now her home is invaded, or she's got the cops over there, or, you know, there's something constantly going on. She doesn't need that. She's just trying to help people. So with that said, the other thing I wanted to mention was the mound. We were here this time last year. We asked for you to change Columbus Day into Indigenous Day, which we appreciate. We mentioned the mound at that time, but there was also talk about having a great celebration this year on Indigenous Peoples Day, and it didn't happen. There was some people in the community that was talking about doing some stuff, but because of the issue at hand in the park, we decided that it was best that we held back so that those issues could be addressed. And we were still trying to respect that, but now it needs to be brought up. I'm just wondering what happened. I thought there was going to be a committee put together, and that we were going to have this great, wonderful Indigenous Peoples Day celebration this year. And there's nothing, and I've called several times, nobody ever knows anything. So I'm going to hope that you put a committee together and start looking for next year, include Native people on that committee, and work towards a great celebration for Indigenous people. The other thing is the mound. As Eugene was saying, you do have a big event coming up. We've been here quite a few times, different things in the park, and we've witnessed people sitting on top of the mound, animals on the mound. It needs to have some type of protection put around it. You know, even a snow fence, if nothing else for now, something that protects that. And hopefully later, some type of a metal fence maybe with a gate so people can go in there to do ceremonies. We did have a mound walk on Friday night and did ceremonies out there, and we had a good attendance. So we ask that you think about these issues.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Zachary Laster. I live in the city. Couple things. First off, I want to follow up on what she said. I was over at Miss Hill's house a couple weeks ago. There's a lady in a power wheel that uses a power wheelchair that wanted to join the pilgrimage of up from Grand Rapids to Lansing. And the night before, we decided to load the power wheelchair in the back of an SUV to make sure it would fit, because they're quite large, and we weren't sure if it would fit. And so it took a group of us, and as we're loading it in and we get finished, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. I counted 6. Someone else counted 7 police officers showed up. I didn't even know Portage had 7 police officers on that night. I mean, they claim that they're like the People's Republic of Portage and no crime. So that had to be like every police officer available there just to harass Miss Hill. I mean, there was no reason for them to be there at all. That's crap. And while that happened in Portage, you guys are kind of responsible for that because you started this whole mess. I'd like to know also what's happening with Ms. Sykes' charges. It seems like Mustache Robinson there doesn't want to charge anyone that works for the city. I also want to remind you guys that tomorrow the county at one time committed $500,000 to address affordable housing and homelessness. However, that's now at risk. And if you guys are serious about helping out with affordable housing and homelessness, maybe show up tomorrow to support that cause. Or better yet, the county, when they made that motion, Commissioner Waldman, when he made that motion, I believe, said that he was hoping other municipalities would join in and put money in the pot there. So even better yet, why don't you tonight put a motion out there to put some money into that pot to help incentivize them actually following through with it again tomorrow, because there's going to be some procedural issues because of politics, which I'm sure we all like right now. So, I mean, do you want to actually help? Show up there tomorrow, or even better yet, show up and put a motion up tonight to actually put some money into that pot, just like you were talking about, Commissioner Urban. It's not just the county's problem. It's not just the city's problem. Put your money where your mouth is.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission? Good evening.
Hi, Hopewell. I'm really sorry for that outburst out there.
Can we get your name and
Rhonda. I just want to say, again, I became part of the encampment group, and I came into the encampment group because I was in a situation and I heard about the millage fund. Last year, a lot of money was sit on, and I think the homeless situation could have been taken care of. And I'm saying this because me and my other half, we were in, and I talked to Ms. Shannon when I was on the walk, that I was in a situation where what you call a slumlord was in violation of not repairing and doing up to code. And I know a little bit about law. When you fix my toilet, money go in escrow. And that's why I became part of these people's lives anyway. And then I heard about entrepreneurship. I am too an entrepreneur. And I learned a lot. And I love you all because I know some of you personally, like Don Cooney and Shannon. I know somewhat of Hopewell, and I know him through spirituality. And I learned a lot of that. I took my time to support these people because I was in a situation where I didn't know if I wanted to go home because my house was about to go up in flames because of violation. And it's like that today still. The slumlords want to sell or rent, and like the man that shared about his money situation, how much he had to survive and budget on. So I just want to say, I learned a lot through this thing. I'm learning a lot too. I ain't all that smart, you know. But I do have a fourth grade level, they say, because of my disability. But I want to start, and I talked to Ms. Shannon, because of my skills, and because I know a little bit about law, and I know a little bit about this and that, I want to use my skills as an entrepreneur to train people for their skills to help them rebuild their lives. And I want to start a children's program called the Cosentia Bronson Group Funding. And it's where you sit down and you teach your children to be leaders. So their future won't be like this. And it's through DAOs. We want our children to be leaders. And y'all very good leaders. You're very good leaders, because I've seen Don Cooney dedicate his time at the drop-in having a serving. It feels good, doesn't it? You know. So I just want to say I love you all. I don't hate you. You do what you can do, and you got a God of your own understanding. I'm a very spiritual person, and I think the ideal I had, considering I stood for a purpose, just like y'all stand for a purpose. You know, I stand for a purpose, and I feel real good being an activist. I've been so excited, and I was like, oh, I'm an activist, yes. And I'm quite sure within y'all hearts, that's the way y'all feel too. It's good to sit up there and take time to be a commissioner. It does. And I'm real, like I said, I'm real proud of her. I saw her, I was like in pain, and she said, Miss Rhonda, and I said, oh my, and she took the time out of herself personally while she stood for a cause. That's what I like about Miss Shannon. And I hope there's future.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time has expired. Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission this evening? Seeing no one, we are commissioners' comments. Commissioner Sykes.
A couple of things. There was an article posted in Al Jazeera that somebody shared with me, and I just wanted to share it with my colleagues and with the community. And it's about new law in Hungary. The headline is "Rough Sleeping Outlawed in Hungary as New Law Comes into Force." And it says, homelessness has been banned and police given powers to remove people from streets and destroy shelters. I won't read the whole thing, but you know, just a little bit here. Rough sleeping will be banned in Hungary from Monday, when the government's law on homelessness comes into force, giving police the power to remove homeless people from the streets and destroy any shelters they may have built. The law banning habitual residence in a public space was passed by Parliament in June and has been called cruel by critics. Under legislation passed in 2013, being homeless was punishable with a fine. The reason that I share that is because it doesn't seem that much different for me from what we've done, and that we are maybe not outlawing homelessness, but definitely shutting down any shelters being built in public spaces. And I'll add that the European Parliament is now starting legal action against the government in Hungary because they believe that it's cruel and incompatible with international human rights law. So I just wanted to share that as we think about the way that we move forward. I'm glad to hear that the meetings will continue. I know after the meetings that ended last week, I think, you know, we were all a little bit clueless as to what was going to happen next. I know some of the folks from United Way and facilitating those were also curious about how that was going to play out. So I'm glad to hear that the meetings will keep going. I also just, you know, want to point out to folks, it's getting colder, and we still have no solutions. I'm glad we're meeting, but still no solutions. I just, you know, I also wanted to point out, I know we've talked about whether or not we have city-owned buildings that would be adequate structures. And it dawned on me today as we were having our meeting that earlier today, that, you know, we have been able to work with the county land bank to have properties that they own donated to the city at either no cost or low cost, and I wonder if that's even something that we've asked about in terms of setting up some other emergency shelter for the time being, as we know has been done in the past in the city of Kalamazoo. And I have to say this problem is not going to go away. It's not going to go away, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. Because I want to end on a gratitude note tonight, I think that a lot of us have had a lot of heaviness for the last couple months. It has been rough. And so with love in my heart, I want us to end on a high note. And so I will say, in addition to the problem not going away, I know the activists are not going away. I know the activists are getting stronger, are getting trained, are building solidarity with other organizations and making plans with other homeless communities, even outside of Kalamazoo and across the state, for next steps and further action. And so that's something to be grateful for. I want to lift up a member of our family, Glenn Yarbrough, who we lost recently. I'm going to miss his smile. For those who don't know him, Glenn was a blind, disabled member of the encampment with nowhere to go. I'll never forget when he sat on the bench on the day that people were packing up with his suitcase. And I asked him where he was going, and he said, well, I don't know. I don't have anywhere to go. And I sat there like, how in the world, legally blind with his belongings, he's now left to try to figure out the next steps. I do want to say that he was given a place to sleep. He was picked up, so that ended well. So I am grateful to have known him, grateful for having seen him smile, grateful to the family who took him in his last days, and I'm grateful to know that he spent his last couple months with family. And so along those lines, I'm going to keep on just talking about what I'm grateful for. And the reason I'm doing this is somebody shared this morning with me, and I realized how badly I need some gratitude in my life. And so I want to pass it forward. So there's a lot to be grateful for. So I want to, I really like sarcastic humor. I want to kick off my gratitude in response to somebody who sent me a letter To Shannon Sykes Nearing, dated October 2nd, 2018, subject homeless. Homeless people seem to be getting a lot of front page news. You removed the statue in Bronson Park, and that eliminated racism, sexism, and social injustice. Is there a statue somewhere in Kalamazoo that would eliminate homelessness? And so obviously that was not written to make me laugh, but I really enjoyed that. So whoever wrote me this letter, please continue to write me when you don't agree with me. That was really special. I am grateful tonight for citizens who read the entire agenda packet and point out when we miss things. I'm grateful to citizens, people who come out with ideas on random topics and say, you know what, I'm going to show up to a meeting and share my ideas, so that gives folks a new way to look at a situation. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful, I've said this before, to the community members who brought out donations to our encampment, those community members who watched the things that they donated be destroyed and continue to bring donations and continue to connect with people to provide donations. I'm grateful for the strength and faith to walk 65 miles in solidarity with COSECHA, and I'm grateful to them for the invitation. And I'm grateful for the camaraderie on that trip. It was a lot of fun. Most importantly, I'm grateful for the inspiration of being able to watch Miss Amy walk multiple times during the walk, but definitely to finish up that last stretch on her feet. I'm grateful to Miss Rhonda for also walking in spite of her pain and the inspiration that gave me. That's what let me know I could finish, is watching the two of you, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to our Midwest culture creators, which a lot of y'all don't know about, but some of you do. But we've got a new team of young people of color who are creating cultural content in the Midwest to say that what you think you know about the Midwest, you don't know. And they are doing some major truth-telling and sharing the actual stories of our community and the actual truth about our youth. And I am really grateful and pumped up and excited about that. I'm grateful to members of our community who continue to stand together as allies alongside each other, realizing that when marginalized or minority groups come together, we become the majority. I'm grateful for the organizers and activists that don't give up, as we know that they are the ones who brought us an end to child labor in this country, who brought us weekends in this country. It was organizers and activists who brought us desegregation, who brought us voting rights, who brought us school lunch programs and school breakfast programs. And the organizers and activists are the ones who will bring us affordable housing and housing first policies, who will bring us liberation from ICE and arbitrary borders, and who will bring us the abolition of the prison system and the criminalization of poor people. So I'm grateful for that. Most of all, I'm grateful for my new family. And let me, this last piece, let me offer some context. I was in Ohio over the weekend, and I spoke with somebody that I have the pleasure of working with from California, and we were talking about the work in Kalamazoo and the homeless encampment and some cultural work and some artists I'm working with. We were talking about all of this. And at some point in the conversation, I said, you know what, though? I gotta tell you, I learned more about community in that encampment than I had anywhere else. And, you know, when I think about, I know so many of us activists and organizers are dreaming up, we're reimagining what our future looks like and what collective community looks like and what a new way of being looks like, right? And I couldn't picture that until the Bronson Park Freedom Encampment, and now I can. And she said to me, she said, that's the story. That's what you need to be talking about. So we had a great time, and I'll fill everybody in talking about how we can bring in some art and some resources and telling that story. But I am grateful, eternally grateful for the members of our community who taught me what community looks like, who taught me what collectivism really is, and who showed me the brighter future that we have ahead. So thank you. Thanks for coming out, and have a good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner Cooney? Commissioner Urban? Commissioner Cunningham? Vice Mayor? We are adjourned.